Major Slack Videos.
Yeah, this is fun.
Shut up, Pee-wee.
Okay.
Well, yeah, the name is Slack. Thanks for coming back. Let's walk through some more Divinity Original Sin 2, and this is it. By the way, we're playing the Definitive Edition. This is the edition that came out when they first released this for consoles. Before that, it was the Classic Edition. I'm not even sure if people on the console have the option to play the Classic Edition. If somebody want to post a comment about that, I'm going to play the Definitive Edition. All right, part 1, 5 things they don't tell you in the character creation screen. This is how you start out. You click on, after you create a profile, click on story, click on single player, choose your difficulty setting. Like I said, we're going to go with Tactician Mode, the highest difficulty setting. We're not going to go with Honor because that's like a permadeath challenge run. Let's go with a regular Tactician Mode. And I love the warnings they give you when you choose Tactician Mode. Bring it on. Combat is demanding. Your foes are devious and observant. For every surprise you spring, they will respond with 2 of their own. Not for the faint of heart. Oh, okay, no problem. And oh, wait a minute. Another warning. Are you sure you want to start the game in Tactician Mode? Fights in this mode will be especially challenging. You cannot change this setting once the game starts. Oh, okay, no problem. I can dig it. I'm in for it. Bring it on. And wait a minute. What? Final warning. There will be no change in your game's difficulty after this. Are you sure you want to continue in Tactician Mode? Think you put it like that? I don't know. No, yeah, it's amazing, eh? Okay, so yeah, we're up for it. Saddle up, lock and load. This is it, boys and girls. We are going into the field. There is no calling in the airstrike. We are on our own Tactician Mode. And this is what you're facing when you first start the game. The character creation screen. And there is just a daunting array of options here. Just daunting. There's all kinds of stuff, abilities, attribute points, skills, it's just, like I said, it's daunting. The first thing you should know is you can hover over everything like that, and you may or may not get a pop-up tooltip giving you some information about what's what. So that's one thing you should do everywhere. Now let's get right to it. 5 things they don't tell you in the character creation screen. First of all, experienced players. Fair warning, this is not a 5 hidden secrets in the character creation screen. This is not what this is all about. Don't read too much into the title, all right? This is for new players or people who are having problems just plowing through the daunting array of options in the character creation screen. There are 5 things I noticed that they don't tell you, which would help you a lot. For me, I found it very frustrating that I didn't know these things, and I actually had to go into the game and play the game and take notes and then go back and start a new game and hit the character creation screen with the knowledge that I now had. And I'm going to save you guys some time by just telling you this stuff right now. Okay, so experienced players, this is not a 5 hidden secrets thing. This is just for new players. Number 2, this is not a criticism of the game developers. I think they did a fantastic job of this game. Larian Studios, my hat's off to you. I love it that you made it like this. I would much prefer a lack of information than a whole bunch of excessive hand-holding, because I cannot stand games with a lot of hand-holding. This is perfect like this. You made a great game, and this is just right like this. I just want to embellish some of the information that you provided. All right, now number 1, I would like to go into a detailed description about the character creation screen, but I know I put in the title 5 things they don't tell you, so let's get right to that now, and we'll get to a detailed description of the character creation screen later on. Number 1, what exactly are the attribute based weapons? If you go to preset and then you go here, you see attributes, click on edit, and let's just clear all our attribute points so we get them all back. Then if you hover over each attribute, like I said, you get a pop-up tooltip with information about that. Hovering over the first 3, strength, finesse, and intelligence, it tells you strength increases damage with strength based weapons. Likewise, finesse increases your damage with finesse-based weapons. Intelligence determines intelligence-based damage you deal. It's basically the same thing. Intelligence-based weapons get a bonus from this. Okay? But what are the weapons? They don't tell you that. What exactly are the attribute-based weapons? What are the strength-based weapons? What are the finesse-based weapons? What are the intelligence-based weapons? It would help to know that before you have to go into the game, and you're spending these points now. So I'll tell you right now, strength-based weapons are melee weapons. They're one-handed weapons and two-handed melee weapons. Finesse weapons are bows and daggers. Any kind of bow. It could be a twig with a string, and I'm not making that up either. There's an actual weapon in the game called a twig with a string. Okay? Or it could be a crossbow. Any kind of bow, like anything that shoots arrows, is affected by finesse. Any kind of dagger, may not necessarily have the word dagger in the title. It could be a shiv. It could be a pocket knife. I'm just going off the top of my head. Any kind of like dagger-like implement is a dagger, and that's covered by finesse. Intelligence is basically magic weapons, magic wands, and magic staffs. Basically, magic wands are one-handed, magic staffs are two-handed. All right, so that's what that's all about. Now you can spend your attribute points according to your playstyle. For example, if you like to use melee weapons a lot, pile all your points into strength. If you like instead to sit in the rear with the gear, pile all your points into finesse so that your bow gets some bonus damage. That is number 1. Number 2, what points do you get when you level up? Basically, the character creation screen, it may look daunting, but really what it boils down to is this: selecting your race, and I'll get into that later, and then spending 7 specific points. And those 7 specific points are, here we have 3 attribute points, 2 combat ability points, there they are, 2 ability points, 1 civil ability point, and 1 talent point. So basically you have 4 different kinds of points that you're spending when you first create your character. Now this is an RPG. Every time you level up, you get more points. That's the way RPGs work. What points do you get when? They don't tell you this. You have to actually play the game, a lot of the game, to figure this out. So I'm going to tell you right now. Every time you level up, every single level, you get 2 more attribute points to spend. Every single time you level up, you get 1 more combat ability to spend. And that's it. That's all you get every single time you level up. Civil abilities and talents work differently. Let's start with civil abilities. You get 1 civil ability point now. You get another civil ability point at level 2. And then it's only every 4 levels you level up do you get another civil ability point. So spend your civil ability points wisely, because they're few and far between. Okay, so once again, that's 1 now, 1 at level 2, and another one every 4 levels after that. So you get 1 at level 6, 1 at level 10, 1 at level 14, etc., and so on and so forth. Talent points are a little differently, but it's similar to civil abilities. You get 1 talent point now, you get 1 talent point, another talent point to spend at level 3, and then you get another talent point to spend every 5 levels after that. So it's 1 now, 1 at level 3, 1 at level 8, 1 at level 13, and so on and so forth. So that's how you get your points in this game. So now you can spend these points accordingly. For example, you can afford to make mistakes when it comes to attributes and combat abilities, because you're going to get more every level. But when it comes to talents and civil abilities, few and far between. So spend them wisely. All right. Number 3, let's go to skills. Let's choose a preset, and I'll explain presets later. That's question number 5. Let's choose, say, Ranger. This is part of the Huntsman skill. As you see, we have 1 point in Huntsman, so we have Huntsman skills awarded to us. Likewise, we have 1 point in Pyrokinetics, so we have 1 skill point awarded to us, and we get to use, by default, a selection of Huntsman and Pyrokinetic skills. If you hover over each skill, you get what I call a skill card, which gives you information about that particular skill. Now, the question I had, which drove me nuts when I first started playing this game, was, what are the green dots? If you look at the top right corner of each skill card, you have a number of green dots. It varies. Here you have 1, Here you have 2. Here you have 3. Here you have 1. You know? What do they mean? What are they? I'll tell you what they mean. These green dots are action points. As you know, this is a turn-based combat game. This means that every time you go into fight mode, everything becomes turn-based and everything is governed by action points. Now, don't get this confused with the regular gameplay. Regular gameplay, you can just roam around, do whatever you want. But when you go into fight mode, which happens when you basically bump into enemies, or if you like make a wrong choice in a dialogue, this happens all the time. You make a wrong turn and you tick off the otherwise friendly NPC, and then all of a sudden you're in fight mode. Now you're in fight mode. Now everything is governed by action points. You cannot do anything unless you spend action points. You cannot eat a pumpkin pie unless you spend action points. You cannot use any skill unless you spend action points. Those green dots tell you how many action points are required to use that skill. So, for example, Elemental Arrowheads requires 1 action point. Ricochet requires 2 action points. Pin Down requires 3 action points. Once your action points are used up, you start with a set number of action points. Once they're used up, your turn is over. And then it goes over to the enemy. The enemy takes his turn. He clobbers your butt back to the Stone Age. Then it becomes your turn again. And it moves on to your next squad member. The next squad member has a fresh set of action points. And once he uses up his action points, then his turn is over. Goes to the enemy. He comes, clobbers your butt back to the Stone Age, and so on and so forth. Okay, that's what those skills mean. So that's what those green dots mean, rather. So that will help you make decisions about which skills to use. Basically, the average is 2 action points. Most skills cost 2 action points. Cheap skills, typically like buffs or healing skills, will cost 1 action point. Heavy status skills, such as this is a good example, where once the enemy's physical armor is depleted, you can use the skill to pin him down and basically cripple him. Skills like that typically cost 3 action points. That's an expensive skill. That's an average cost skill. That's a cheap skill. That's what those green dots mean. Next, number 4. Another thing that drove me nuts and they don't tell you. That's okay. Like I said, I'm not criticizing Larian Studios. Once again, on the skill cards, you see a number at the bottom right corner, of each skill. It's a different number every time. What does that number mean? Okay, so for example, here's number 4, 3. I had a 2 somewhere here, 2. What is that number? That number is the timeout. That's the number of turns it takes before you can use the skill again.
What? What, you mean I can't spam the skill?
No, you can't. You can't say, for example, spam the pin down skill all the time. You can't look at the skill and go, well, that looks great. I think I'll just use pin down on everybody. No, it doesn't work like that. Once you use a skill, that's it. You can't use the pin down skill for another 3 turns. That's what that means. So that is very significant and will help you determine which skills are, the ones that you want to use. You see? So it's basically, let's say you have 2 members in your squad and the first squad member has the pin down skill and he uses it. That means that when his turn comes around again, he has to go through 3 of his turns before he can use the pin down skill again. That's the way that works. So basically, you want to have a lot of skills. When I first started playing this game, I approached it really naively. I said, okay, I'll just take some of the best skills. I'll take 1 or 2 of the best skills and I'll use them. And once I figured out there was a timeout, I said, well, I can deal with that. I'll just use my basic attack, and when pin down becomes available again, I'll use it. No. You can't afford to play the game like that unless you're playing on a lower difficulty setting. If you're playing on the higher difficulty setting, or basically the highest difficulty setting you can handle, you're gonna need to have a lot of skills. That's the way to beat this game. Have a lot of skills so that while one skill is timed out, you have other skills available. So you basically you want to have as many skills as possible that that makes sense with the character build that you're creating. That's the way you beat this game. Tons of skills so that while some are timed out, the others are available. And then you use those get timed out, use the others, those get timed out, and by the time you get to the end of your list, the ones that were first timed out have become available again, and so on and so forth. There you go. Now, finally, presets. This is something that drove me nuts too when I first started playing the game. What exactly are the presets? Because it takes on different meanings as you go through the game. I've heard these referred to as classes. I forget where I heard this. Maybe it's even in the game itself. But I think that may be a counterintuitive way of referring to it. I think it's better to just call it a preset, because that's exactly what it is. On the initial character creation screen where you're creating your main character, this is not like, I'll get into squad members later. This is your main character. On the main character screen, the presets is nothing more than simply a suggestion. It's a suggested build. That's it. You can, in effect, completely ignore the presets. For example, let's go with, I'll talk about origin characters and custom characters later on, but let's just go with the one I'm going to go with. Sibyl. Now let's go to preset. Let's say you selected Sibyl. This is the fastest way to go through the character creation screen, by the way. Just select a race or an origin character, then go to the preset, and this is basically suggesting ways, different play styles. If you want to be a ranger, obviously she's got a bow, you sit in the rear and you shoot arrows at the enemies. If you want to be, see this one, she's got daggers. Here, two dual wielding one-handed weapons, etc., etc. That's all this means. It's just simply a suggested build. You can conceivably completely ignore the presets in the initial character creation screen. Later on, when it comes to taking on squad members, for example, when you decide how many members you want in your squad and you get to Fort Joy and you meet all your potential squad members, later on you'll have a dialogue. You'll meet each squad member and you'll have a dialogue with them, and when you get to the end of that dialogue, they'll suggest to you to take them on as a squad member. Once you do that, in the dialogue options, you will see all these different presets available. At that point, the presets become much more important, because at that point, you're depending on that preset. You're depending on the game to decide how to spend the ability, all the points that you're getting right now for that particular character. So you don't get to spend those points that you're getting right now on your squad members that you take on. Instead, the game will spend them for you. So for example, if you choose Inquisitor for a squad member that you take on, the game is going to automatically spend 1 point in strength, 1 point in intelligence, 1 point in constitution. You have no choice about that. And it will automatically spend 1 point in warfare, 1 point in necromancer, and 1 point in telekinesis. So that's what meaning the presets have in the game. Right now, you can completely ignore it, but when it comes later to take on squad members, that's what's going to happen. So you may want to familiarize yourself with some of these presets so that later on, when it comes to taking on squad members, you'll know exactly what you're getting when you finally select a preset for that squad member. Instead of like doing what I used to do, just do a quick save before taking on a squad member, choose a preset. No, I don't like that, and then reload your quick save and then try again. It's a really tedious process. You can browse through all the presets now a lot faster than doing it like that. So you may want to take some notes now on what presets really appeal to you, and then you'll know later on when you take on squad members to choose those presets for those squad members. So that is what presets are all about. Right now, it has no meaning. You can conceivably completely ignore them, but later on when it comes to taking on squad members, that's what it means. I should also point out now that when you take on squad members at later levels, for example, say you take on a squad member at level 3, the game will pre-spend the points that you would have gotten at level 2 already. So if you take on a squad member at level 3, it will only give you the points available that you would gain at level 3. The points that you got at level 2 will already be spent for the squad member that you take on. So the later you take on squad members, the less customization options you have with that squad member. So it's actually recommended to take on squad members as soon as possible. I see some videos describing how to power level to level 2 before you even leave the first part of the game, like before you get to Fort Joy. I don't recommend that. I personally want to take on my squad members before I hit level 2. So I have the maximum customization options possible. You're already losing the initial 7 points that you get because the game will pre-spend them. There's no way you can get those points back. But you don't want to lose any more points. Every time you level up, the game will pre-spend those points. So you're getting kind of like a pre-made squad member. You don't want that. Okay, you want to take on your squad members as soon as possible. I just wanted to mention that. So that's it. That's my 5 things. Let's go into a detailed description of what the character creation screen is all about. As I said before, the fastest way to do that, I mentioned this before? Okay, well, I'll mention it now. The fastest way to go through this, if you're just playing the game casually and you don't really care much about going through all these options, all you want to do is just choose a race, and it's up here. There's 6 origin characters. Those are special characters that the game creates for you. I'll get into that later. And custom characters, if you're playing casually, just choose one of the origin characters. I strongly recommend that. And then select yourself a preset, which basically suggests a playstyle. And that's it. Start the game. You don't have to do anything else. You really don't have to dig into this. But I strongly recommend, if you want some close control over exactly how your character is built, to do the following. First, go to preset. First, to kind of like get organized, choose your race. Yeah, let's start with races. There are 6 different origin characters. These are special pre-built. This is probably the wrong way to describe it. There are special characters created by the game, and each special character or origin character has special origin skills. These things here. And they have special tags. I'll get into that later. This is just more like cosmetics. And they also have a special backstory. Let's choose Sibyl. Once again, I'm going to go with Sibyl, and let's listen to her backstory. We'll just listen to Sibyl, so we won't run through them all. This is just for demonstrational purposes.
I used to be a slave, kept under the thumb of the master, the bastard that made me hunt down my own kin. How did he do that, you ask? With the living scar you see on my cheek, this horror that takes no more than a song sung by Master Dearest to control my very thoughts. But now the tables have turned. I broke my shackles, and when I finally find him, I will make the master sing a very different kind of song.
There you go. That's Sibyl's backstory. Is it just fluff? No, it's not. You actually get quests in the game to follow that backstory. And there's actually, every origin character, you'll get special dialogue options called tags. It will be like, let's say you choose Sibyl, you get a Sibyl tag, and certain people you run into in the game, if you make the wrong selection in dialogue options, you could find yourself in a fight, or like all kinds of things happen. So that's something to consider. Aside from the 6 origin characters, you also have custom characters. Should you choose origin or custom, the game developers strongly recommend that you choose origin because they say that's the way you get the most out of the game, and I agree. So amongst all the characters, there's 5 races. If you go through the 6 origin characters, this is elf, human, dwarf, another human, and undead. So those are the 5 races. Oh, and lizard. So if you go to the custom characters, you'll see all the races laid out for you. Here we go: dwarf, elf, human, lizard, and then you get the undead version of those all. And the most important thing to remember about undead, let's go back to Fane, he's an undead, is this. Undead lets you heal from poison, but regular healing will damage you instead. That's very important. It's back asswards. It's basically, Bizarro world. So poison heals you, regular healing, that's including spells and potions, will damage you. And you should remember that too. If you're facing undead enemies, if you shoot them with a poison weapon, you'll actually heal them. So keep that in mind. So that's the most important thing to remember. I would strongly recommend choosing an origin character as opposed to a custom character. I can only see one advantage to choosing a custom character, and that is if you wanted, say, 2 of one race in your squad. Getting 2 humans in your squad is easy, but getting 2, say, elves in your squad cannot be done if you choose Sibyl. Because all these origin characters appear in the game as available as your squad members. So there's 6 origin characters. When you get to a certain part of the game, which is very early, you'll meet the 5 other origin characters, and you get to take up to 3 of them on as squad members. So if you choose Sibyl, there's no way that you can have another elf in your squad, because Sibyl will not be available when you get into the game. Likewise, if you choose Ifan will not be available when you get into the game. So the only way that you can get 2 dwarves or 2 elves or 2 lizards is to choose a custom character. Then once you go into the game, all the origin characters will be available. Then you can, like, say for example, if you chose a custom elf, once you go into the game, go up, find Sibyl and take her on as a squad member, and that way you can have 2 elves in your squad. That's pretty much the only strategic reason I could see to choose a custom character. Otherwise, I would definitely go with an origin character. Now, once you have selected your race, like I said, I already went through the fast way of creating your character. Here's the more advanced way. Once you've selected your race, let's go with Sibyl. Then go to preset and take back all the points. So take back attribute points. So you should have 3 attribute points available. Take back all the combat ability points. Take back all the civil ability points. And take back your talent point. Now you have 7 points to spend. Then it's a matter of spending those points to create your character. Now what I'm going to do, like I said, is I'm going to keep all these points until level 4. So like as every time you level up, as I explained, we'll accumulate more and more points of each type. So by the time you get to level 4, we're going to have like 9 attribute points, 6 combat ability points, etc., etc. We're going to have a whack ton of points. And there's some key things that happen at level 4 which make it much more, it makes a lot more sense to actually create your character. You can create like a good starter build at level 4 instead of having to decide right now what kind of build you want to do. It would be a lot better if at level 4 you could spend all those points and create a build that actually is much more powerful, has much more meaning. Then if you don't like that build, you can just reload your level 4 save with all your points back again and try something else. So that's what I'm going to do. But if you want to make your build right now, this is what you would do. So I'll just quickly go through the meaning of all the attributes, combat abilities, and whatnot. We'll start with attributes. We already went through strength, finesse, and intelligence. Constitution is about health. The more points you put into Constitution, the more health you have. Forget about that. I would not recommend putting any points into Constitution unless you're going with a melee character and you want to have a really good shield. A lot of gear is dependent on having a minimum requirement of these first four attributes, especially armor. So for example, if you want to be wearing good armor, you're going to come across armor that says something like requires 11 strength. So you're going to have to put points into strength in order to be able to wear that armor. Likewise with finesse, likewise with intelligence. Constitution, typically it's shields. Like really good shields require you to have at least 11 constitution in the beginning, higher it as you go along. So that's the only reason I would think you would want to spend points in constitution, but even then I wouldn't unless you actually run across that gear. For now, I would strongly recommend to decide what kind of weapons you want your main character to use, whether it be melee, bows and daggers, or magic weapons, and then pile all your attribute points into that. Memory is all about how many skill slots you have available to you. Let's just go there right now. If you go to skills, as you can see, you start off with 3 skill slots by default. As soon as you choose any kind of preset, let's go with Ranger again, the game automatically spends your points, and it will spend them in one of these 10 skills or schools of magic. Just ignore this here. Don't even bother with this weapons and defense. Just ignore that. Right now, it's all about getting your skill set up to scratch, okay? Now, once you've selected your skills, this is pre-selected Huntsman and Pyroconnect. We're just for like demonstrational purposes. Confirm. Here you go to your skills, and you see you have 3 memory slots here to put your skills in. These are the skills that you are offered to you to start out with, but you only get to select 3 of them. But you don't have to go with the 3 that they pre-select for you. You can like empty them all out. These are your memory slots, and at this point you get to select any of these 3 skills to start off with. I'm just choosing these for demonstrational purposes. Let's choose those 3. That's it. You get these 3 skills for free. That's it. All the rest of the skills in the game you have to either buy or earn or steal. Right, but the most important thing here is memory slots. So let's confirm, go back to attributes, and here you start off with 3 slots by default. Let's just say you spend all your points on memory, which don't do that, okay? You only buy memory slots later on when you have more skills available. Let's just do this now for demonstrational purposes. Now we have 6 memory slots, but it won't do us any good now because you're only allowed to choose 3 skills for free by default. So let's say you started the game now just like this. Just for demonstrational purposes, we'll go back to the character creation screen immediately afterwards. The game starts.
So, still a bit
Let's just
groggy.
pile through this dialogue. There's Sybil right there. Up and at him, Sybil. She's up and at him. Let's go to the skill screen.
What a dismal way to wake, in the belly of the beast. Let's see if I can grope my way out.
Okay, here we are at the skill screen, and as you can see, we had 3 extra memory slots because we spent 3 points in memory. But we have no skills to put in those slots because, like I said, you only get 3 skills for free by default. All the rest of the skills you're gonna have to earn. You're gonna have to. Normally you buy them. Well, for me, the normal is steal. But for you, if you've got like a moral compass thing happening there, you're gonna buy them. Or occasionally you can find them, or occasionally you can earn them through certain special objectives or whatever. But mostly you buy them or steal them. But right now you only get the 3 free ones that you get at the beginning. So don't put any points into memory because you're going to have a bunch of memory slots and no skills to fill them. Buying memory slots only comes later on, like at level 2, level 3, level 4, etc. Let's go back to the character creation screen. Alright, back at the character creation screen, took back all our points like the way it was before. We discussed these 4 here: strength, finesse, intelligence, constitution, memory, wits. Wits affects your critical chance. I really wouldn't waste a lot of points on trying to bump up your critical chance because it's only 1% per wit point. What's more important with wits is initiative, or your ability to find traps and hidden treasures. Initiative is probably the most important because it'll decide who in your squad will go first whenever a fight starts. And that's really important because if you got a point man, for example, a melee fighter, you basically want him to go first because he's up on the front lines and he's not going first. He's going to get clobbered. Like, let's say he's last in your list. He's going to get clobbered because he's up on the front lines. You basically want a certain member of your squad to go first, and that certain member is the one that has the highest initiative. So if you want somebody to go first, put a couple points into which, just one, so that he has higher initiative than other squad members. But be advised that you can actually find gear that will give you bonuses to wits, and you can even eat food that gives you bonuses to wits, such as pumpkin soup. So like if you drink some pumpkin soup just before you go into combat, you can save yourself having to put points into wits. Or if you find some gear that gives you a bonus to wits, you can put that on the character that you want to always start when you go into combat, and he'll have higher initiative than the rest of your squad members, and he'll always start first. Or a really ridiculous way to make sure that a way to control your initiative is to have all other squad members wear buckets. Buckets serve as impromptu helmets in the game, but buckets, because they look so freaking stupid, this is so funny actually lower your wits. So whenever you wear a bucket, it lowers your wits to 9. It lowers your wits by 1. So let's say you have 2 members in your squad. If you want a certain squad member to go first, always in combat, have the other guy wear a bucket. That will lower his wits to 9, and that means that your main guy will have wits of 10. He'll have a higher initiative, and he'll always go first. That's pretty much the only reason why I put points into wits ever. Like I said, also you can use wits to find hidden treasures. That's also very situational. If you really wanted to, you could have one character in your squad with more wits, so that whenever you come across hidden treasure, he'll find it. You can have like all your squad members like have different like assignments, so that one has more wits, one has more of this, one has more of that. One specializes in dialogue, one specializes in thievery, etc., etc. But me personally, I would not spend any points in wits. I usually put all my points into either strength, finesse, or intelligence. Okay, so now you got the whole story on attributes. Let's move on to combat abilities. Like I said before, I personally would completely ignore, other people may think differently, maybe you have a different strategy, but I would completely ignore weapons and defense until later in the game. Right now, it's all about getting your skills up to snuff. Each one of these is, they call it a skill, but it's essentially a school of magic. And this determines basically your playstyle. So if you're a melee character, I would put points into warfare. If you're a ranger, put points into huntsman, etc., etc. And as soon as you put points into any one of these combat abilities, it gives you a selection of skills to choose from that combat ability. So for example, let's choose warfare. Put 1 point into warfare, confirm, let's go to skills, and we now have these 4 skills to choose from. And like I said, you had this amount of memory slots. You could fill all 3 of them, rest your laurels on that, and spend the other, you could like take it up to 2. What does this mean? This means that, let's go back to skills. Hover over each skill. Does it say here? No, it doesn't. Okay, but on weapon cards or like skill cards in the game, it will tell you whether a skill is a level 1 skill or a level 2 skill. These are all level 1 skills. The reason why you would want more points into a particular combat ability is to get the bonus that it describes there. Warfare increases all physical damage, so each level up you get 5% more damage with all physical damage. And you also get to use level 2 warfare skills. If you put another point into warfare, you get to use level 3 warfare skills, etc., so on and so forth. I'm not going to go over all the combat abilities because that would be too exhaustive. I'm just going to tell you what I think are the main, what I would call primary combat abilities, the one that are going to really change your gameplay. Those are Warfare, Huntsman, Scoundrel, Pyrokinetic, Necromancer, and Summoning. And Geomancer. Well, actually, Geomancer is more like a side skill. It's more like a side order skill. The ones that you're really gonna like go take into the forefront are Warfare. That's like a melee character. Huntsman. That's a ranger. Pyrokinetic. That would be like a mage who specializes in fire spells. You could specialize in Hydro Fist and Arrow Thurge, but I don't know. I would start out, if you're going to go with a mage, I would definitely start out with Pyrokinetic. So I would consider this more like a side skill. And a side skill. Necromancer. This is a really good skill to use if you like want to... this is like raising the dead and healing yourself, like stealing health from the enemy and stuff like that. Summoning. This is what is widely regarded as the most powerful build in the game, Summoning. So yeah, I would say those are the main ones: Warfare, Huntsman, Scoundrel, Pyrokinetic, Necromancer, and Summoning. All the others, you add those on to kind of like complement your main skills. And that's pretty much it. Some good combinations. What I'm going to go with, if you're wondering, eventually when we get to level 4, the build I'm going to go with is, first of all, I'm going to go solo. I'm not going to go with the squad at all because I'm really fascinated with going solo. I'm going to go with Summoning and Huntsman. Although a lot of people seem to think that Summoning and Necromancer is the best, most powerful build. I personally prefer Summoning, Huntsman with a side order of Geomancer and Necromancer. So I'm going to start out with Summoning. That's going to be my main skill. Huntsman's going to be like my backup basic attack. And then Necromancer and Geomancer, a little side order of each. Just to have some of the skills in those. And that's the build I'm going to go with, and I'm going to go into much more detail about that when we get to level 4 and we start spending our skills. Yeah, let's say you wanted to go with Warfare. A good mix with Warfare would be like you're playing as a melee character. Choose, put 1 point into Warfare, and then maybe 1 point into Geomancer, because Warfare weapons deal physical damage, and Geomancer's skills or like powers, they also deal physical damage with this, so that's a good mix. Another good mix would be like, let's say you're going for like a real powerful mage, specialize in like with the fire mage, so you go with like Pyrokinetic, and then once again Geomancer, because that's like poison skills. Poison works really well with a fire. First you blast them with poison, then you set them on fire and you get like an explosive effect. Really messes the enemy up. Even though this does physical damage and this does magical damage, it's still a good mix. So those are some examples of what you can do. Hydro Fist and Arrow Thurge, that's actually those two, that's actually what you get when you choose, I believe, the Enchanter preset. Those mix well together too. Enchanter, here we go. So you get a group of wet skills, like water skills, and a group of like zapping skills. So this is perfect. First you wet him down, and then you zap him with like, you know, either shocking touch or electrical discharge, and it shocks the enemy, or you could even stun the enemy. So that's a good mix too. So there's some examples of what you can do with these schools of magic or skills. Next, civil abilities. You should be advised that some origin characters have special talents which automatically gives them bonuses to certain civil abilities. For example, if you select Sibyl, she'll get this special talent which automatically gives her a bonus to Lore Master. Let's go to Ifan. He automatically gets a bonus to bartering without you even having to spending a point in any of these civil abilities. Next, Beast, he automatically gets a point in sneaking. Los automatically gets a point also in bartering. So you should be aware of that before you spend any civil ability points, that some of them already get bonuses. So let's go back to preset, civil abilities. What do I do personally? Like I said, you can go one of two directions in this game. Like I said, you get 3 skills to start out with, and that's it. All the rest you have to acquire in the game, and skills are expensive. Money is actually, money comes pretty good later on in the game, but at the beginning, money is pretty tight, and skills are pretty expensive, especially level 2 skills. They'll really set you back. So if you want to avoid that, I would strongly recommend putting all your points in thievery for the first 3 times, at least the first 2 times. Put a point in thievery, and then when you get to level 2, put another point into the thievery right away. That way you can rip off all the skills and get them for free. You can like steal literally thousands of gold worth of skills and have them all for free. So that's one big argument to put like points into thievery. That's what I would do. But like I said, if you got a moral compass thing happening and you can't bear to steal, choose another one of these civil abilities. Like for example, bartering will give you a price break when you're doing business. Or like I said earlier, when you're running a squad, you probably want to have each squad member specialize in one thing. It's always good to have at least one squad member specializing in persuasion, and that will automatically happen if you choose a lizard as one of your squad members. For example, let's go back to the Red Prince. You choose that guy. One of his special talents is Spell Song, and he automatically gets a bonus in persuasion from Spell Song. So you don't have to spend a point in persuasion. As long as one of your squad members has that ability, whenever it comes to dialogue, you can send him in to talk to whomever it is, and if there's a persuasion check to win, he will win it because he's got points into persuasion. So that's ways of saving points in civil abilities. Don't waste points if you don't have to. Especially in the ones that you get freebies from, those being sneak, bartering, persuasion, and lore master. Those are all the freebies that you get from selecting certain origin characters. And if you're taking on squad members, that is going to be very useful. So be mindful of how you spend your civil abilities, keeping that in mind. Okay, so like I said, I would definitely put points into thievery right away. Lucky Charm is a good one too. Lore Master I wouldn't really worry about, because you can always go to a blacksmith to identify items. This thing here, helps you identify. Identifying enemies, that's not really a biggie. Identifying items, you're always going to be coming across unidentified weapons and armor. At that point, if one of your squad members has Lore Master, you can identify it right away if you have a magnifying glass in your inventory. If not, you can simply go to a blacksmith and pay a small fee and have him identify it for you. So I wouldn't worry about Lore Master. Telekinesis is fun, but I wouldn't waste a point on it unless you have something really specific in mind. So as far as civil abilities, like I said, thievery first, bartering second. But keep in mind those bonuses that some of these origin characters get. And I think that's about it. Oh, one more thing. There's lots more, but this could go on forever. There's just so much information to impart to you about the character creation. But I think that covers all the basics. So that give you a good foundation on how to, build your character. But like I said, I'm not going to spend any of these points at all. I'm going to keep them all until level 4. One more thing about if you're going to go with a ranger, let's go there. Let's go with the preset that I'm going to go with, Sibyl, or rather the origin I'm going to go with, Sibyl. Ranger. This is really important. Go to preset. You see that Ranger is covered by the Huntsman skill. What you really want to do with the Huntsman skill is only put enough points in it to get the skills that you want. As far as the bonus, if you see in the card there, it says 5% to all damage when attacking from high ground. That's very important. if you are not confident that you can get your ranger to high ground at all times, I would only put enough points into huntsman to get the skills that you want. After that, I would put points into warfare instead, because your bow will still get a damage bonus from warfare, since warfare increases all physical damage that you deal, and bows deal physical damage. So that's what I would do. Only put enough points into huntsman to get the skills that you want. After that, put points into warfare. That's another thing I forgot to mention. Talents. When you first select your character, like I said, I would start with the race. The next thing you want to do, okay, the very next thing after you select race is decide, do I want 1 or 2 members in my squad or 3 or 4 members in my squad? That's very important. You have to decide this right away, because if you only want to go with 1 or 2 members in your squad, you get a special talent called Lone Wolf, which will give you huge bonuses. This is a really fun talent to use, and you want to implement this right away. This gives you huge bonuses to your action points, to your health, to your armor, and most importantly, to how many points you get to spend. Let's just take back all our points. This gives you a huge bonus. Okay, there we took back all our points. Confirm. Let's go back to talent. If you want to only go with 1 or 2 squad members, you can use the Lone Wolf talent. If you go with 3 or 4, you're not eligible to use the Lone Wolf talent. But 1 or 2, you can use the Lone Wolf talent. Let's take a look at the points here. As you can see here, we had 3 attribute points, 2 combat abilities, and 1 civil ability. Let's see what happens when we choose the Lone Wolf talent. Choose Lone Wolf, go back to preset, go to attributes, and all of a sudden when we put points into, let's say, strength, typically when you add 1 point, strength will bump up 1, add another point, bumps up 2. But when you have the Lone Wolf attribute or Lone Wolf talent, add 1 point, strength bumps up 2, add another point, strength bumps up 4, add another point, strength bumps up 6. So basically you get double points for everything. Same with combat abilities. This is really significant because you can get level 2 skills for anything right away once they become available. But I'll get into that later. But let's say, like I said before, if you wanted to have to be eligible to use level 2 skills in Huntsman, all you have to do is put 1 point in Huntsman when you have the Lone Wolf, and you're already up to level 2 skills. So that's one huge advantage of going with Lone Wolf. Another significant, something else that's really significant about that is, let's say you wanted to go with summoning, which is widely regarded as the most powerful build. And once you get summoning to 10, summoning, the most important thing about summoning is you get to call up an extra guy in the battlefield. It's like it's called your Incarnate. Let's just put 1 point into it now, okay? And then I'll show you what it is. Confirm, and then the skills available to you are this. Conjure Incarnate. This is most important skill. Basically, you get to call at the beginning this little guy. He's like this little gremlin, okay? He's not really much, but you know, he can do a little bit of damage, okay? That's your little Incarnate. Then you get to add certain like buffs to him, like give him a ranged attack. Where is it? That's to call down the Incarnate. That gives him a ranged attack, and that. Wait a minute, that's not the one. Oh, it's not available yet. But this is like Elemental Totem. I'll get into that later. Let's just deal with this first right now. Conjure Incarnate. You get this skill. You get to call down a special little guy on the battlefield. It's an extra man, and then you give him a ranged attack. Back to summoning. Summoning is now level 2. As you keep progressing through the game, and you can keep developing summoning, once you get summoning up to level 10 summoning, your Conjure Incarnate changes into this gigantic Goliath. It's called a champion. It's nuts. And he's got like physical armor, magical armor. It's absolutely insane. It's great. That's what you're shooting for. And you can get that. You can get summoning up to level 10 as early as level 4. How? This is how. First of all, you have to play with only 1 or 2 characters so you can get the Lone Wolf talent. With the Lone Wolf talent, this doubles all your combat points. So now already you have summoning up to level 2. When you level up again, you're going to get another combat ability point. That will bring it up to summoning up to level 4. But then you also get a talent at level 3. I know this is like information overload. This is going to make a lot more sense when I actually do it in the game. But you get another talent at level 3. These talents here you get to choose from once you get to certain levels. This talent here gives you an extra combat ability point. So once you get to level 3, choose all skilled up. So now you have 2 combat ability points at level 3. So back to summoning. At level 3, you've already got summoning up to level 4. I know this sounds confusing, but that let's call it tier. Let's call the skills tiers. At level 2, you've already got combat summoning up to tier 4. At level 3, you get an extra combat ability points, and now you can get summoning up to tier 8. At level 4, you get another combat ability point, which is double, and at that point you get summoning up to tier 10. That's how you can get summoning up to tier 10 at level 4 already. You can have a champion incarnate at level 4. That's one of the most significant things that happens at level 4. The other significant thing that happens at level 4 is all the skills. Like I said, like all the skills have tiers, right? Tier 1, you can only use tier 1 skills when you have like each particular skill at that tier. Let's go back to Lone Wolf so it's less confusing. Just remove Lone Wolf. There we go. Back to preset. Okay, now we're just adding like 1 point per skill. So let's use Warfare as an example. We have 2 ability points. Now we have Warfare at tier 1. Now we have Warfare at tier 2. At tier 2, we can use tier 2 Warfare skills. However, all these tier 2 skills for any skill only become available in the game when you're at your character level 4. So that's the significance of why it's important to have all these points available to you to spend as you wish once you reach level 4. So that way you can have, because tier 2 skills are much more powerful than tier 1 skills. Tier 2 skills pretty much define your starter build. I mean, how you're gonna really start kicking ass with your build. Tier 1 skills, they're okay, but tier 2 skills, you'll see, they're the ones that really make a difference. So that's why it's really important to have all your points available to you so that you can make up your mind what kind of build you can go with, because you'll have all these tier 2 skills available to you once you hit level 4, which is why I'm going to save all my points for level 4. So let's just empty out all the points now. I think I pretty much covered it all. Hope I didn't make it more confusing than it needed to be, but that's pretty much everything. If you have any questions, post a comment and I'll explain in the comments. Yeah, take back all those points. Okay, so 3 attribute points, 2 combat ability points, 1 civil ability point, and 1 talent. And the only thing I'm going to decide right now is I'm going to go with Sibyl, and I'm going to change her appearance. All right, skin color. Let's go with Alabaster. Face, so I want face number 1. Hairstyle, I want to go with hairstyle number 5. and bear for the color. There. Okay, that's the bill. She's cute, eh? That's it. That's all I'm going to do right now. All the other points, I'm going to keep. Keep all the attribute points. Oh, wait, I select. Okay, I have to do this again. Every time you select, make a new selection, it automatically spends your points. There we go. So we selected Sibyl. We got her all prettied up. Got three available attribute points, 2 available combat ability points, 1 available civil ability, and 1 available talent. No points are being spent. Let's start the game. And you'll get a warning saying you haven't spent your points. Just ignore it and go into the game.
It all happened like I knew it would. A single drop of source magic. And, like flies to honey, the monsters swarmed. The rebel panicked. The carnage began. And the magisters pointed their fingers at me. Just as I'd planned. I was shackled and collared, and sent to Fort Joy. I'd come here to kill Godwoken. But instead I became part of their story.
So, still a bit groggy, are we? Don't worry, the sedative will wear off soon enough. Easy now, no need to hurry. Get your bearings and report to me upstairs.
Alright, Sibyl, up and at 'em. We're a sorcerer. We've been taken captive. Because the powers that be are terribly afraid that if we use our source powers, they're going to attract monsters.
What a dismal way to wake. In the belly of the beast. Let's see if I can grope my way out.
And that is it. We're going to explore this ship next video. You can see all the points that we saved up here. Here's all our attribute points. Here's all our combat ability points, civil ability points, and talents. You see the green shiny thing there? That means that we have points to spend. One thing I forgot to go into detail about is what the different talents do. What you can do is just hover over each one and it will give you a description. This is highly situational. But like I said, when we start spending points, the first one I'm going to spend on is definitely Lone Wolf. And at that point, at level 4, we'll have two talents available. The other one I'm going to spend it on is all skilled up, which will give us an extra combat ability. So those are my 2 talents spent right there. If you're not going to go that route, just simply hover over each one and it will tell you what's what. Some really good ones are usually become only available at level 2. For example, all skilled up gives you an extra combat ability point and an extra civil ability. Bigger and better automatically gives you 2 extra attribute points. Executioner is a great one. If you have a point to warfare, every time you kill someone you get 2 extra action points. Another good one is elemental affinity. Whatever you like, if you're standing, say for example, in a pool of blood, all the blood skills, which are necromancer skills, have cost 1 less action point, which is actually really useful. Far Out Man, if you're playing as a ranger or a mage who is shooting like, you know, magic spells, the range of your arrows or magic spells is 2 meters further. Glass Cannon is an interesting one if you have like kind of like a suicidal tendency. You get maximum action points in every fight, but you can't protect yourself against status effects. So like typically magic armor and physical armor will protect you against certain status effects, and I'll get into more in detail about that later on. But yeah, that's a really interesting one. Like I say, you can hover over each one and it will tell you what they're all about, and you can make some decisions about that. I think that pretty much covers everything. Next video we're going to get into exploring the ship, and some of you may be wondering, how the heck am I going to win fights? Because you have to like win at least one fight to get off the ship, guaranteed. The other one you can avoid. And when we get onto the new map, Fort Joy, you may be wondering, how the heck am I going to survive to level 4 on Tactician Mode with no skills? I'll show you. It's really fun. It's a lot of fun. We're gonna do all the fights too. I'm not gonna shirk. There's another fight down here which we can get to at the end of the tutorial deck. I'm not gonna avoid that. I'm gonna show you how to win that too. And yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. That's all coming up next video and in the videos to follow. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope I cleared up a lot about the character creation screen, and I hope it didn't like create too much information overload, but it's unavoidable. There's just so much information to impart, even I forget it all. So thanks a lot for watching. My name is Major Slack. See you next video. Hey guys, real walkthroughs like these are an endangered species here on YouTube. For a complete lowdown on the YouTube video game walkthrough scene, check out my Patreon page, and please consider making a donation to yours truly, Major Slack, to help keep real walkthroughs alive on YouTube. You can donate as little as $1. That's $1. That's all. That's all it takes. All right. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it.